Restaurant Unstoppable. What the most successful restaurateurs know that you don't. So what was that trend? The one thing I really want to talk about is this transition during this time. You went to your full-time job to being full-time at the restaurant. Was that an awkward transition?
Yeah, it was. So that happened right as we opened our 5th restaurant location. So at that time we had 4 restaurants in New Orleans, and we opened our 5th location in Pensacola, Florida, in downtown Pensacola, in a really, very nice revitalized downtown area. And that
How long of a drive was that for you?
It's 3 hours, okay. door to door, 3 hours. And so for us, it was that, like, let's test this concept. So few things, we knew that in the world of kind of post-Katrina New Orleans, there was a whole lot of love for this city that came from not just all over the country, but all over the world. And a lot of people came to visit, and they came to spend money, and they came to, kind of see the rebirth of this city. And so we had been highly successful in those 4 locations in a way that was like, there was no charts that were going to tell you this is how you were going to do. And so a piece of us always said, like, is this just because, there's so many tourists that visit New Orleans, and we've had this, real influx of money post-Katrina, and we're on the front of this breakfast and brunch curve that's, kind of a big rising segment. And do people in other places drink mimosas at 7 a.m.? Because we don't know the answer to that. We only know what happens in New Orleans. So we chose Pensacola kind of as our test market to say, is this a concept that we should continue to grow? And it was a place we wanted to go visit. That's how we picked it. It was like, where do I want to spend time if it's not going to be here?
Yeah.
And I kind of drew like a 3-hour driving radius, and Pensacola was the best place in that radius.
Yeah. So real quick, as far as scaling goes, you mentioned at the very beginning of the episode that you had no intention, or we mentioned you had no intention to even open one restaurant, but it kind of the opportunity presented itself. You had no intention to scale that one location
right.
either. What changed that made you want to scale this thing?
I would say it was maybe the lure of the success. Like the first location did so well. We received so many accolades. We had, so many regulars who just really loved, like, we had become part of their family and part of their, like, family routine and their life. And we, when people did have a complaint, and if you kind of go back to that time frame is kind of the early days of Yelp. Right. And so, I'm like learning about Twitter and learning about Yelp and, reading every review and getting really upset when it's not 4 or 5 stars and taking everything personally. But inevitably, most reviews that had anything negative mentioned the long wait. So as we, kind of got started within, 2 or 3 months, we had 45 to 60 minute waits outside the restaurant all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And it was a little bit like a party while people were waiting outside.
Yeah.
And, kind of being on the wait became part of the experience. But it wasn't anything we had anticipated. We had no idea that there would be this overwhelming, kind of support and followers and fans and all that. So people would always say, when are you going to open the next one? When are you going to open the next one? And we'd kind of laugh. We had a young child at the time. It's like, yeah, I don't really know if, we really want to do that. And then, my husband starts looking for real estate, and he's like one of the luckiest people I've ever met. He stumbles upon this great piece of real estate that's in Craigslist, and was like a complete steal from the rent standpoint. It was already a restaurant that had failed, and so we went in and renovated it for about $60,000.
Was it turnkey as far as like the equipment and things?
Yes,
needed?
Everything. I mean, we did about $60,000 worth of work and some new equipment, because the equipment was in pretty bad shape, a lot of it. But I think my GM there, we opened that one in December 2010, so we're in our 10th year. 2 years after the first location. So we're almost at year 10 now. We just passed year 9, or we're at 9.5. Right before COVID started, she told me that the very last cooler that was original to when we took that building over in 2010 finally bit the dust and had to get replaced. So that was a really good investment. And that like $60,000 investment is our highest revenue, highest profitability, highest flow through restaurant, and we
Wow.
have in the company.
I think there's an underlying lesson there that like you don't need to be chomping at the bit to expand. Like if you have something good, be patient, like, look at the market, and when you have the right opportunity, like don't rush. Like
Right.
if you got something good going on, like there's no rush to get it out there. I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes.
And again, like it was building the demand. So then
Yeah.
we opened that second location. It was a big deal. People were like, finally, you opened a second location.
Well, that was my next question. Was this second location, like as far as strategic location wise, like how far was it from your original?
It's about 2 miles from the original, and it's the Ribby Slipper that most people know because it's in downtown New Orleans, a block off of Canal Street. And
This is the one that was shut down for a while because of the collapsed building, right?
no. That's on Canal Street itself, and those two are about 6 blocks apart from each other.
Okay.
So the one on Canal is our fourth location.
New
So this
Orleans-
one, we call it a magazine. It's
Yeah.
like 200 Magazine Street in downtown New Orleans. And, it's kind of a block off the main thoroughfare, and became really popular, particularly with tourists, because
Okay.
there's a ton of hotels there, and it's
Okay.
kind of on the way to the convention center.
So I guess what I was going with this is a lot of people would be afraid of cannibalizing their own business by putting some restaurants so close to each other. But it sounds like you were probably losing business because people didn't want to stay
They didn't
in
wanna
line.
wait, yeah.
So like because you had so much demand in that community at 2 miles apart, you can service more people. And I don't always. It kind of reminds me of P. Terry's in Austin, Texas. They were literally like opening restaurants like not too far from each other, because sometimes people just literally don't want to cross a bridge. They don't go over
Right.
the other
There's
side
like
of the bridge.
natural boundaries
Exactly.
in people's mind.
So yeah, that's interesting. So as far as scaling beyond 2 to 3 locations, you start going to 4 and 5 and 6. How did your business start to change, and how did you evolve with that change? And we can pause here.
No, I was just going to say, then our third restaurant's like 1.5 miles from that second restaurant. We
Right.
ended up building 4 restaurants within like 2 miles of each other.
Was it
Centrifugal force, yes.
Or no, I think it's like centrifugal circles or something, or
Yeah.
centered circles. The idea
Concentric.
of like concentric
Yes.
circles. Thank you. When scaling, but
Right.
hyper focus and slowly
Yeah.
scaling out.
Yeah.
Growth comes from the inside out.
Right.
So as you start to fragment yourself early on, like it's harder to like have that same presence in all those locations, right?
Yeah.
But you finally did kind of get outside your bubble with Pensacola.
And so we went to Pensacola, and at that time, it was kind of clear to me that the business was getting big enough that one person, my husband, couldn't run the business alone. So either we were going to have to hire a higher level person to help him run the business, or I should go help him run the business. At that time, it just so happened was when the oil price really tanked in 2015. And so I was very lucky to have the opportunity to raise my hand and voluntarily leave Shell after 16 years and get a really nice package that helps me on my way.
I bet.
And so that helped make the transition much better. But, kind of where you started the question from, was it a difficult or awkward transition? It really was. I did not want to come run this business. That was not my life's dream.
Yeah.
And I really loved the job that I had and what I saw as my career trajectory there. And so I was probably, kind of pouting about it for 6, 12, maybe even 18 months
What
of
changed?
just like, it's really interesting. I think about it often. I think I changed my perspective, and I found that, I'd wake up some days and be like, well, this is where I am. So what am I going to do to make the best of it? And I don't know that the people around me would have said like, yeah, you didn't like coming to work, but, I felt like it was kind of a duty, like an I have to do versus an I want to do. And I had this really exciting career, and I loved the people I worked with. And now it's like, oh my God, now I'm responsible for all these people, and they have all these issues, and I have to help them find solutions. And, it's a lot of challenges in the restaurant industry,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
A lot of balls to keep in the air. But I'll tell you that one of my real big life and career learnings was that when I told myself finally, like, you need to get over this, this is where you are, and we're either going to decide to build this business or we're going to get out of this business, because sitting here and being unhappy about being in this business is not helping anybody. When I changed that perspective, I was like, suddenly I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I really, like, I kind of took these blinders off that I had put on and saw like, wow, I have these really great team of people who work for me, and they're really amazing, and they're interesting people, and like they have these great ideas. And if I can listen to them more and collaborate more with them, they ultimately want to make my life easier and better, right?
I love
So
that.
stop fighting it. And so, it's probably, like I said, it was somewhere like 6, 12, 18 months later that I really changed my perspective. And I think that was also, and my husband and I were like, we can really grow this business.
Yeah.
So, 2015 to 2016, we opened one restaurant in 2016, which was in Orange Beach, Alabama. So about the same driving distance
So
as Pensacola.
6 locations total.
Yep, 6 locations. Then there was a couple opportunities that presented themselves in 2017. And when we decided, we're going to do this in 2017, we actually opened 3 restaurants in 2017. But the one is the building that we're in now, which was a replacement for our original location, which the lease was running out. We were at the 10 years of our lease, and we did not have a renewal. So that's another learning. We would never sign a lease for less than 20 years now, with options, at least with the options equaling 20 years. So, we had to move locations. So we opened 3 restaurants in 2017, and then we kind of got on track and did 3 in 2018. And then 2019, I think we opened 4.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
5, almost 5.
Okay. So what has been the biggest challenge in scaling?
Hiring people.
Yeah.
That I would say that everything else significantly pales in comparison to how strained the job market is in hospitality right now. It's just so many restaurants. It's such an explosion of restaurants and, people really dining out. I think that's going to change a bit as we're coming out of COVID. We're seeing a lot of bankruptcies and closures and, really unfortunate situations. But
there's going to be a period where if you survive this, it's going to be good.
Yeah. It'll be easier to hire really top quality people.
But I think the explosion that's going to come.
Yeah. But right
once
now,
things recover,
the hardest it's ever been right now. Harder than it's ever been in our
gosh.
12 years,
I can only imagine.
Yeah.